Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott MacKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
Well, hello there, industrial professionals from all around the world. Thank you very much for joining Industrial Talk. Thank you for your continued support of this number one industrial-related podcast in the universe that celebrates you. Absolutely, you. I'm pointing you at the camera because you're bold, brave, you dare greatly, you innovate, you collaborate. I say it all the time. You're solving problems. You're making the world a better place. Thank you so much for what you do. Industrial Talk is here for you. We have a great conversation. You're going to say, Scott, what is it, Scott? Generative AI. Of course you've heard about it. But let's put it in a practical sense. We're going to be talking to Kieran Gilmurray. He's with Kieran Gilmurray and Company Limited. He's out of Ireland. And boy, this is a paper and pencil conversation. Let's get cracking. Yeah. Blowing my mind. That's what he was doing. Blowing my mind. But before we get into that conversation, and you're just going to have to, again, paper, pencil, do it, make it happen, learn more, reach out to him. You know the routine. It's all about education, collaboration, and innovation. It's a big deal. You got to do it. Yes, you have to do it. All right. What we do need to have to understand is that Industrial Talk, the platform, is like the Spotify for industry. See, here's the little twist. If you have a podcast, if you have something that you want to amplify, because we're here all together to try to make sure that everybody's successful. And again, that's through education. You need to educate individuals. You need to educate yourself. You need to collaborate. Out on Industrial Talk, we have all these great conversations, all of this great and wonderful content. And every single one who delivers, every single individual on Industrial Talk wants to have a conversation with you. And we're on this journey, and I'm trying to find trusted individuals to be able to sort of lock arms with and move forward. That's what Industrial Talk has all these trusted professionals. And then, of course, finally, we need to innovate. And a lot of the conversations, such as the one with Kieran today, will talking about innovation and what we need to do and how do we leverage it going forward? How do we create companies that are resilient and successful? Yeah, very important conversations. Very important conversation. So get out your paper and pencil and be able to write this down. You just do. The other thing that I have going, that it's sort of the last, I've been promoting it, but there's an event. Iris is the company, Beyond the Booth. And we're going to be talking about it's out on Industrial Talk, and you can sign up. And it's going to be evergreen, too. So it's going to be on demand. This one is for tomorrow. It is, I want to say, thermographic sustainability, and I'm looking at it. Yeah, it's the Iris Factory Tour. I'm looking at it on it. And, of course, it's small for my eyes. But anyway, it's out on Industrial Talk. I highly recommend that you sign up for it. It's right there. Just go to industrialtalk.com, find the webcast section, and then click on it. It's the middle graphic. They know what they're talking about. They're passionate, too. Again, we're talking about trusted individuals. Iris, the team is spectacular. Find out more. They're amazing individuals. Okay, on to the conversation. So Kieran reached out, or I reached out to Kieran just because I want to really try to start expanding that conversation in the world of AI, generative AI, large language, small language. How do we do it in the world of industry, and why is it important, and what's that first step? That first step is education and figuring out how that works for you. So anyway, there we have it. Kieran is going to be chirping with us, so enjoy the conversation. Kieran, welcome to Industrial Talk. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Hello, all the way over from here from Ireland. Scott, delighted to be here, my friend. Delighted.
It is awesome. I was looking forward to this conversation. Outside of the fact, listeners, he was riding me hard like a horse. Get going. He's bitten. He just wants to get going with this conversation, and I really can appreciate that most definitely. Before we get into the topic of Gen AI, I need for you to tell the listeners who you are and your little background.
Yeah, look, Kieran, live in Ireland, been doing business technology for about 30 years, every role imaginable, every industry imaginable. One of the constants that's come through, or should I say 3 or 4 of the constants come through, has been automation, AI, and data analytics, and how businesses can combine the use of those particular technologies to allow them to do great, genuinely great things.
Do you focus in on manufacturing space? Is that your primary industry?
I focus in every industry. I think the only industry I haven't worked in, Scott, is health for some reason. Why? I don't know. It's not anything anti-health. I just haven't had the opportunity yet. But everything else I've seen, back way, sideways, up, down, left, and right. Each of them have their own idiosyncrasies. But behind them all are good people, good tech, and good businesses. And when you combine those things together, you can do amazing things. And that's what I tried to do. Get great people, great tech to create great businesses to allow them to do even greater things in life.
Tell us a little bit about what you do. Like, who is Kieran? I get it. And you must have started when you were, 5 in the tech industry. You have 30 years. No. Have 30 years of whiskers.
Yeah, look, it's everything that needs done. Let me broaden that out. So I've been in boards, in C-suites. I've been climbing under desks, picking computers apart, building networks, building businesses, restructuring them, you name it. I've done it over the 30 years. And I kind of think you need to do all that, Scott. You need to run businesses in the good time. That's easy. Run them when things aren't so good. Boy, do you learn whether you can actually lead a team or not. And then when everything comes to sort of all the other times in between, where if there is such a thing as steady times, then you know how to run a business properly. Lean, not mean. You know how important people are. You know where tech's position is. So all the things I've done over the years, between building PCs and networks to consulting with some of the top organizations in the globe, all recognized brand names. Annoyingly, they won't allow me to give their names to the public, which is always the way, which is really frustrating because you want to do this to prove your credibility to others. But look, it is what it is. So look, we do what we got to do. But, I go in. People are normally confused about, what is technology? How does it work? Where can they apply it? What do they do with their people? That can be new installations of tech. So at the moment, generative AI feels to be the hottest thing since, sliced bread, although AI is what I describe as an 80-year-old overnight success story. I was ahead of data science, 10 years ago plus, and was doing it for 10 or 13 years. And what has now been described as, the most amazing and first time ever through Gen AI is actually as old as the hills.
But don't you think that it has its time? We have the technology to be able to crunch data. We have that ability. I was involved with a neural net many years ago. The problem was there was no way that I could just get through the data. There was no technology to just be able to crunch that data effectively. I did it, but it was the storage was just massive.
Yeah, look, I sort of agree and disagree. And let me explain that one, Scott. Technically, we've always had all the technology we've ever needed. Like 10 years ago, we had AI, we had cloud compute, we had huge processing power, we had just about neural nets and so on, or variations of different AI algorithms. And yes, I agree that, look, now we're more fortunate than ever. It's cheaper, bigger, quicker, faster, bolder. More people are trained on it, more understanding. Deep learning is a thing where it maybe wasn't, back in the day. But I've always marveled that, we always want the next shiny technology because once we have it, then we'll be able to do all the amazing things. But you're sort of looking going, hold on. I've had a mobile phone for 20 years. I wouldn't do without it. I don't think anything of it, but I can travel the world, find everywhere I want to go, transfer money, and that ain't new. AI, as I said, 10, 15 years ago, we're working out models that determine how much we should charge someone, next best action, credit analytics, debt analytics. So that ain't new. Where there is a subtle difference is now the cleverness of the technology. So if we take Gen AI as a topic, then it isn't a case of very narrow uses. In other words, look, I want a credit model. Now I spend $1 million getting a couple of PhDs in data science to build all this out. And every time the model changes, I now need to spend another 6 months training the darn thing. Now, I'm closer to technology than ever, and I can speak to it in a language that I actually understand. It's human natural language. And once I've done that and asked it 1,000 questions, it'll give me 1,000 answers, and it'll cost me $20 a month. That bit I do agree is absolutely amazing. I agree we can now throw unbelievable amounts of unstructured data types at generative AI and get sense out of it and ask questions and so on. But I just wish we'd make the best use of the technology that we actually have to allow us to do brilliant things. You talked about manufacturing a moment ago. A cheap camera 10 years ago would have allowed you to do, check product quality down a production line. I don't need Gen AI and $1 million camera today to do the same thing.
Yeah, but that's not how we roll.
No, it's not.
It's just not. I don't want the old camera. I want the new camera. I want the next sparkly object out there that makes me feel, special.
You are special, Scott. Just let me say you are special. You don't need an object to prove that to me.
I need something to validate me. Please validate me. So, with that said, we're going to venture into Gen AI. Now, for the listeners that's just sort of trying to get them up to speed, what is Gen AI or generative AI? Just sort of lay that foundation. Then we're going to venture into why this is important for industry.
Okay, let me try. So generative AI is a subset of artificial intelligence, which pretty much is a computer trying to mimic the skills or the intellect that we have as people. Where generative AI varies is as I was describing a moment ago, back in the day with artificial intelligence, you normally bought, a group of PhDs, built a database and built one model that could do one thing. So for example, if you're working in an insurance brokerage and you want to understand how much you can charge people money each year so they stay for as long as humanly possible, something called customer lifetime value, then you would build a data set, you would get PhDs, data scientists, data wranglers to do all this, and you would get an answer probably in 9 or 12 months. And you would celebrate because that's a highly profitable way of actually running a business. But the challenge was it cost $1 million. It stopped, the multitude and the masses doing these things. And when I wanted a different question answered, I had to go through the same iterative process again. A couple of years ago, and not that lot, many years ago, I think it was Google designed transformer models, which are basically the back end, for want of a better phrase, off of tools like OpenAI, Gemini, Bing, Bard, Google, whatever you want to call it these days, Perplexity. Those are generative AI models. And what you can now do is in human-like language, be it typed text or what you might call a prompt, or verbal, again, another prompt, you can ask these models through chat interfaces to answer such a wide variety of questions. So if I want help building a job interview template and scoring mechanism for a HR job, it can do that for any job you want. If I wanted to recommend a corporate day out in Dublin and what we might do together, Scott, if we were to have a business meeting in Dublin next June, it would be able to tell me that. If I wanted to tell me what I should charge people in that insurance example, it will do it for $20 a month. This technology is come on in terms of artificial intelligence, leaps and bounds. Its latest incantation, Gen AI, has to be one of the most amazing things that I've seen in all my decades, just for the pure accessibility of it and the ability for anyone and everyone, what they call democratized AI, to ask it questions and to get back what appear to be very intelligent answers about an endless number of topics and subjects.
But how do you ensure that the answers are accurate? Do you still need to scrub it? Do you still need to sort of take it with a grain of salt? I mean, there's going to be answers that are, easy to say, yeah, that's right. But then the ones that you're really sort of probing and you want to get some answers, how do you ensure that there's an accuracy there?
Yeah, great question. Look, there is something here. If you go back in the day when you talked about bog standard chatbots, you asked it a question. If you didn't ask it in the most perfect form, it knew. It basically says the computer said no, and everybody hated them. So when you put in, AI behind chatbots, you got conversational AI. Now you've put generative AI behind conversational AI chatbots. you get a machine that can look, and notice I'm been very deliberate about my word, it can look to give you any possible answer, but there's something called hallucinations in Gen AI.
Right.
And those are called, it looks like a plausible answer, but it's not. And you sort of go, well, that can be quite funny. And it can be quite funny when it comes up with some random ass answer. So, for example, there's a well-known travel group who the customer filled in the chatbot and said, look, it was a great stay, but didn't like where the hotel was. And the chatbot went, don't worry, we'll literally lift and move the hotel next time to where you want it to go. Now, that's amusing, and then you have the unamusing. So 2 lawyers in the US about a year or 2 ago were representing an airline. They went to court. They said to the judge, look, here's our 6 pieces of legislation that evidence why you should award the court in our favor. And the judge, who was a multi-tenured, many-yeared experienced person in airline litigation, went, I don't recognize any of those cases. Where did you get them? And they went, well, ChatGPT.
Right.
And ChatGPT, nice. They literally made up the answers. And the 2 lawyers got sacked, the airline suing the law firm for doing it, judge threw out the case, and. So it's real consequences. Now, the question is, look, how do I trust everything that comes out of it? Well, like everything in the world, you should never trust anything that comes out of anyone to a certain degree. You should fact check, validate, look for multiple sources, ask, where's your source? I want to see a hyperlink or a reference or the name of the book that you actually showed me this, if it's something key and important, like a court case or something else. For other stuff, does it really matter, Scott? I want you to tell me 10 jokes. I don't care what the 10 jokes.
Yeah.
As long as it's funny and I'm not ruining someone's copyright and likely to get sued. So I always ask it, look, show me your source, and then I'll maybe for something really important, go and check it in a different model or a quick, dare I say, go back to Google or one of the search engines. And if it's giving me a quote that someone has said, like Sam Altman said at MIT last year, well, I'll do a quick search for the exact same quote and say, is this actually real? And very often it is. Sometimes it's not. We're starting to get tools like Perplexity that are really good tools that come up with qualified answers every time.
Perplexity?
Perplexity.ai.
Perplexity.
Yeah, really good research tool.
How would, and we'll get into it. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to go off on a tangent. If I'm getting results that are not accurate in my my Gen AI activity, how does that model purge it from, like that example that you gave of the lawsuit? There's some reason it's in there. How do you purge that?
Yeah, look, you have a couple of things here. So think about the models. You have a couple of things that are happening in the world. So OpenAI is something called a large language model, which is basically, it's been fed hundreds of billions of data points, and it can roughly answer any question on any topic. But like the person who knows something about everything but nothing about something, you run the risk of getting a very generic answer. So for example, a couple of weeks ago, I said, look, act as a UK corporate lawyer, review this piece of legal document and tell me where I'm at risk. And it did it. It was amazing. So here's 12, 13 things you need to think about. Boom, done. Do I trust that going to court? Absolutely not. I bring it to the lawyer that I've got, and I get him to check it and say, look, go through this and fine. Please come and tell me what I've missed in my proper legal position. It does that, of course, and job done. Whereas, go back to the lawyer's example, you just wouldn't do it. So how do you fix it? A couple of things. One is, very often, if you're not actually prompting it correctly, in other words, asking a specific and a detailed question, a bit like, a new intern comes into a company, ask them to go and organize a company strategy day, and you haven't given them anything. Well, what about on a particular topic in a particular area with a particular team? What's the business outcome? So realistically, we have to get better as people at actually prompting or training the AI to give us better answers. The second bit is actually putting a human in the loop. In other words, don't just take the answer that's been given without actually checking it. Just when it comes to something important, put a person in the middle of it to look it up, to fact check it against multiple sources. Ask, as I said a moment ago, for the source of the data and the hyperlink and the reference and the literature piece or wherever it was, and check. Go to a second tool and make sure it's giving you the same or consistent answers. Now, they might not because they're trained differently. Well, the other one you're starting to see now, if I take engineering, healthcare, legal firms, is something called the creation of a small language model. In other words, to take a particular, service category or profession, and rather than being able to answer every question about everything, then I'm going to feed it law data. So law data for the, every legal case that was ever trained to a lawyer in Ireland, I put it inside of that. I ask it all of the common questions that have ever been asked in the last 10 or 20 years. And as I'm answering questions that are coming in, I get a qualified solicitor, barrister, lawyer, whatever else to answer the question. So I'm building a bank of knowledge inside of this particular small language model that can competently answer questions for that particular industry. So it's not one thing, it could be 4 or 5 different ways of actually validating quality answers to come up with the answer that you can stand over.
From an industry perspective, let's say I'm a manufacturer something. How do I leverage Gen AI, this technology, in a way that makes sense to me? Or is it just another shiny object out there that is going to distract and it's just a mess?
Oh, it'll definitely distract, because everybody likes shiny objects. And I give you an example. I was running a conference, and one of the things that I do in London a couple of months ago, and someone said to me, I've got 189 proofs of concept or pilot Gen AI projects or AI projects up and running. And someone said, I can beat that. I have 223. Jeez. And I went to both of them. Yeah, well, they're multi-billion-dollar international orgs. Those are the ones I tend to spend time with. And I said, how many will go into production? They went, none. I went, what? And they said, look, none of the executives want to appear to be behind. They're all racing to be, to tell the CEO and the board that they're doing Gen AI. The board themselves are putting out reports to market that mention the word AI or Gen AI because the market is demanding that they're doing something there. Otherwise, they're going to get sacked as a board, or they're just not going to appear informed or up to date. So you are getting shiny object syndrome and a lot of hype. Yet, this technology works. AI works. AI has been around since 1956, believe it or not. That was when the term was actually invented. It's just got better and better and better and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper as people have learned more, models have developed, like deep learning, as funding has come into the industry, as more data scientists get trained, as we're now discovering large language models and everything. It's got better and better and better. So you can do more and more and more. If I'm a manufacturer, look, it doesn't matter any business. Everyone's a finance department. Everyone's a HR department. Everyone's a sales department. I can put AI at any of those and immediately get them to be 30% more automated, 20 to 40% more creative, get people to be 20 to 50, 60, 70% more productive by getting AI and generative AI and automation technology to remove mundane, boring tasks, remove the robot out of the person, improve decision-making, come up with better and new and innovative ways of working, driving productivity. That's within a functional level. If I have a production line, what I can use is mixtures of AI, vision technology, and generative AI to suddenly look at all the products that are going down the manufacturing line and, based on historical data, suggest methods or models that might improve production. That will identify product that is faulty in a line, where in the past I might have had to stop the line and then stop all sorts of production, but I can anticipate that. I can do stuff like predictive maintenance, but again, I don't necessarily need Gen AI to do that because I could do that with AI for years. The only difference is now I don't need an engineering degree to work out or to build an algorithm and ask a question. I can feed a wide variety of data to a Gen AI model, ask it questions in a human-like way, in other words, not computer code. I can ask it in general English and get really good answers. So it's not a question of, what can you do? It's down to our imagination. I go and sell what I've got in the manufacturing business. I can get Gen AI to create an entire sales strategy. I can get Gen AI to listen into every call that my sales staff are making and assess the quality of it. I can create media and video where I might have had to go out to a studio and hire actresses and actresses to put on productions. I can test 50 pieces of content a day to see which resonates most with my customers, my suppliers, and whatever else. So the options are boundless. It literally is the limit of your imagination that will determine where you can use data, AI, and automation, and Gen AI as well.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. For me personally, I think you have to pick your battles, right? It's just, you could get overwhelmed. You could be drinking from a fire hose, like and just get distracted and get nowhere. Per your example of all of these companies who are saying, yeah, we're doing this, or anything in production. No. And from my perspective, I'm very bullish on the ability to be able to allow AI to extract and analyze data more efficiently. So I'm able to draw tactical decisions from whatever the results are in my manufacturing. That to me I'm more efficient because I'm able to analyze data more effectively.
100%. I could not analyze billions of data points or millions of data points in a production line. It's humanly, cognitively near as darned impossible. Whereas that's one of the things that AI is great at, is finding patterns in millions of rows of data. And that even in itself is a lesson. Get the AI to do the analysis and find those things. And then as a really skilled person, now I can help the data or the AI interpret what I need to do next and what it truly, truly means. But you're right, it can feel like, drinking from the fire hydrant. But there's a couple of core things I think everybody needs to do, Scott. One is AI education, what it is, when it works, when it doesn't, the risks, absolutely key. And I do this with CEOs and executive and board teams all the time. I need to get them ready before they start shouting at all other staff, telling me, bring me Gen AI gold. And then, of course, like everything in life, if you don't tie a piece of spend, be it technology, people change program, latest marketing campaign against a business strategy, and genuinely be focused on, on getting an ROI of some sort, and lots of companies still don't do this, then you are, putting chance into place whether you get an actual productive outcome or not. So again, just because it's a new and gorgeously shiny and wonderful and genuinely great technology doesn't mean all the principles of business have suddenly disappeared because it's Gen AI. If anything, during periods of hype, you need to double down on sensible ways of working to get a good ROI out of it, subject to one small caveat, which is if we ran businesses on numbers only and didn't take a punt or innovate just to see what will happen on a best guess, sort of best gut assumption method, then we may never create a new and shiny future, because the CFO will be going, well, is that a bright and shiny $50 future or a $2 million future? Sometimes you just got to put a bit of money to innovation and allow things to breathe to see what the outcome is.
You mentioned the necessity to educate. So I always look at 3 pillars: educate, collaborate, because I want to find somebody that has answers. For my learning curve, I'm going to want to have a conversation with somebody that I can collaborate with, that I trust, that I can have that conversation. And then, of course, you innovate, just because if you're not actively looking at innovation for your business, I think you're going to get left behind, because it's happening, and it's happening at a rapid pace. With all that said, what's the roadblocks? What pushback what would be that? What, like the pushback that somebody would say, I've always done it this way and we've been whatever.
Yeah, look, you called out number one, which is, you've certain people who want to change, they'll change at the drop of a hat, and you've certain people who will never change, And the old story, because I do executive coaching and mentorship with boards and executive teams, being hugely practical. If you can't change the people, sometimes you literally have to change the people, because some are unwilling to change. Those who need convinced, that's a different story. You can't just say, blindly follow me over a hill and trust me. Not everybody will. So you need to paint a bright, shiny picture to say, look, if we do this, this is what it's going to mean for you and for the business. And this is what's in it for you. And you need to convince and show people of that, because people are genuinely and rightly fearful. Not rightly fearful on the base that I believe that there's going to be an apocalypse and AGI, artificial general intelligence, and SGI, super AI, will replace everybody on this planet, and we'll either A, be out of jobs and it'll be a horrible dystopian future, or B, we'll all get universal income and never have to work again and just explore a creative sense. What a load of rubbish. What I mean is, there's hardly a day goes by when there isn't a government, a newspaper, an international body mentioning how AI will kill jobs. I had it on one of the most eminent political shows yesterday, where someone I was expecting to answer in what I would describe as a balanced way, went off on one about how AI was going to ruin every job in the world, and it was going to take over the world in a Skynet. And I'm thinking, what have you been drinking? Because I want some of that. But this was a credible public service, meant to be quality show. So look, that ain't going to happen. What I'm talking about is responsible, mindful, ethical AI, where look, you need to bring people with you. That's called change management. Doesn't matter whether it's AI, Gen AI, automation technology, new manufacturing plant, moving to a different state, different legislation coming in. Change management's absolutely key. Box one, convince people. You have to sell it, whether you like it or not. The second one is, look, train people. AI literacy, never mind automation and technical literacy, is a huge thing. I seen a stat, whether it's right or wrong, I need to validate it, Scott. Everybody talks in the US about a decline in manufacturing jobs. I seen a figure the other day. Again, I need to check it. Is this actually, there's 350,000 jobs in manufacturing advertised in the US at the moment. People can't do the jobs because they haven't got the skills to do those things with automation and AI. So you're sort of going, look, as businesses, as educators, as governments, we have to bring people on this journey and not do what we've always done, which, new tech, we haven't got the skills. Oh my God, let's complain. And some people earn a fortune and then we'll go, but aren't people not qualified? I believe in a business strategy, a people strategy, and a technology strategy. And you need to be thinking about all three simultaneously. And when I'm building my teams, I'm not building them for today. I've already done that 18 months ago. I'm building them for 18 months' time. I'm horizon scanning. I'm working out where I need to go. For me to build a business strategy, it's going to be informed by technology. For me to implement technology to allow me to execute my business strategy, I need really amazing, well-trained SMEs in that particular sector who have the skills, the competencies, the tools, and the knowledge to use automation, AI, understand legislation, understand risk, be emotionally intelligent, be able to work at this. All those are skills and things. Suddenly, surprisingly, no.
Hey, Kieran, we're having a bit of a technology blip on your end. You're sort of coming through.
What we need is a bit of broadband, not a bit of AI.
Yes, that's okay. It's all good, man. It happens.
But you get what I mean?
Yeah.
The fears are real, but the media overemphasizes them. The need for education is absolutely key. The need for change management is massive. And tying business case, please just do that.
What's interesting is from my perspective, it's exciting. I really get excited about what is happening within the world of industry with all of the marvelous innovation that is taking place, and it just never stops. It never, and the only thing that I can hang my hat on is education. It's just like you just got to do it, and you've got to enjoy it. It might be a grind here and there, but it's got to be fun and enjoyable, and it is. It's exciting stuff. Now that we're having broadband issues, I have to wrap it up, but here's the deal. How do people get a hold of you, Kieran?
Yeah, look, probably there's two primary sources. Look, go to KieranGilmurray.com. That first one, if you put that into the message, you'll find it. Or find me on LinkedIn, where I am constantly writing about AI, Gen AI, data, analytics, business transformation. I give away huge amounts of content because, Scott, I firmly believe that all boats will rise on a rising tide. I would encourage more people to do that.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. Kieran, thank you very much. You can tell he's got mad skills. We're going to have all the contact information for Kieran out on Industrial Talk, so fear not. This is a must connection individual. Get it, make it happen. Absolutely spectacular. Thank you. We're going to wrap it up on the other side. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
Yeah. What'd I tell you? He nailed it. He was hitting on all cylinders. Big time. You need to reach out to him. I'll have all the contact information for Kieran out on Industrial Talk, so fear not. He is very active. I highly recommend that you take the time to reach out. Educate, collaboration, and innovation key to the success of your business going forward in a big way, along with managing individuals too, and making sure that they have what you need to. There's a lot that has to happen. All right. Again, I'm going to reiterate, we're building a platform. You have a podcast, put it out on Industrial Talk. You have technology that you want to amplify and you want to be on a webcast, talk to me. Let's get it out on Industrial Talk. We want as many people as we possibly can be able to hear your message. And if you want to be on Industrial Talk, go out to industrialtalk.com and reach out and have a conversation with me. All right, be bold, be brave. Dare greatly. Hang out with Kieran. Change the world. We're going to have another great conversation shortly, so stay tuned. We will be